Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Gurunath Badiger, Associate Professor of English, Government Postgraduate College and PG Center, Harvard. Today, I am before you to discuss one of the famous poems, and particularly sonnets of William Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? We all know that how important Shakespeare is for a student of English literature. William Shakespeare is one of the greatest poets that the world has ever produced. Today, we shall discuss his poem, and I am going to share screen with you, and let us see what Shakespeare writes in his famous poem, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day? Dear friends, William Shakespeare, as I told you, is a literary giant of 16th century England. We must know how to locate William Shakespeare. He belongs to the age of Elizabeth. He lived in 16th century, and there are so many things about him. He was less educated. He knew little Latin, less Greek. He could only go to a grammar school. Yet he could become one of the most successful poets of 16th century. Later we call him, he is the greatest dramatist of all times. He is also known for his famous tragedies and comedies. His literary output extends to 37 plays, which include tragedies, comedies, tragicomedies, chronicles, and 154 sonnets, and a number of lyrics. His famous tragedies, just to quote, Macbeth. Macbeth is a story of over-ambition. Hamlet is a story of delay in taking decision. Othello is a story of a suspicious lover, and King Lear is a story of old age father who could not take right decision in right time. It is also very interesting that the greatest tragic genius is also the greatest comic genius. He produced wonderful comedies, particularly As You Like It, which are known for its charming characters like Rosalind and Celia. Midsummer Night's Dream is also known for wonderful women characters like Helen and Hermia, and Twelfth Night. As you know, all's well that ends well. If his tragedies are famous for famous heroes, his comedies are famous for charming heroines and wonderful romantic background. Let's discuss Shakespeare as a sonneteer. The sonnet was a very popular genre in 16th century. Originally, it is from Italy. Petrarch is called father of sonnet. He was writing love poems, particularly to address his beloved Laura. Italy was a center of new learning during Renaissance, and many English people went there and borrowed sonnets. And Watt and Serre borrowed in a sonnet to England, and Shakespeare could expertise himself in writing sonnets. Although he did follow Surrey, he left a great mark in the history of English sonnet, and his sonnet is known as Shakespeare's sonnet. As I told you, normally sonnets are love poems, and Shakespeare's sonnets are also addressed to two important persons. There is one, W.H. It is said that it was his own friend, and Dark Lady. There are controversial discussions about it. Let us not discuss much about it. But finally, he is addressing a lover, maybe a fair youth or a dark lady. Some people say that sonnet number 1 to 126 are about a fair youth, and from 127 to 154 are about dark lady. Whatever may be the reason, Shakespeare did write wonderful love poems. And his sonnets are normally written in three quatrains. A quatrain is a stanza of 4 lines, and a couplet. A couplet is a stanza of 2 lines. He imitated Surrey, but he made his form very popular. And this particular sonnet form is known as Shakespearean sonnet, with the rhyme scheme A B A B C D C D E F E F G Z. So his famous sonnets are True Love, sonnet number 116, and Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day. Today, I'm going to discuss this particular sonnet, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day. Before I discuss this poem, I'm going to recite the poem for you, and let us read. And in reading, we can understand half of the meaning of the poem. Let me read or recite this poem. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. This is sonnet, as I told you in the beginning itself, written in three quatrains, that is 4 line stanzas, 3 4 line stanzas, and the last 2 lines are called couplet. Throughout the poem, there is a comparison here. Of course, the title itself contains the word compare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? We must understand the context of summer in England. Actually, if at all you want to compare someone to, the summer, it means that summer is also known for beautiful, flowering. We are talking about Mayflowers in England. We are talking about lovely. So it's like Vasanta in England, actually. So summer is comparatively considered for its warmth, and consider itself for the richness of culture. That's why in the beginning, the poet wants to compare his beloved. I told you, beloved, let us not deviate ourselves from who is this beloved. Beloved may be WH or dark lady, or sometimes some scholars say that it is poem itself. The poet wants to compare his beloved to a summer's day, but immediately he thinks that comparing it to summer's day is not, in fact, good. His beloved is more beautiful, more lovely, and temperate than the summer's day. He began to find even some limitations in summer. Summer season, although is known for flowers and warmth. He feels rough winds sometime. Rough winds of summer should not fade her beauty, and there may be some kind of hot or scorching sun. And he also feels out that summer does not last long. It is temporary, and he wanted something eternal, something perennial. It has all too short a date. Sometimes the summer sun burns too brightly, it is too hot, and at other times the gold complexion of the sun is dimmed or hidden by clouds. This is the apprehension of the poet. He feels that summer is also short lived, and that's what even the gold complexion, we are not talking about gold complexion of the sun during the sunset, and it's also it's dimmed or hidden by clouds, but his beloved's beauty, that's what he says. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. Wonderful, darling buds. There is again a wonderful metaphor here. And summer's lease hath all too short a date. Summer's lease, too short a date, too short. It is not eternal. It's not long lasting. Sometimes too hot, the eye of heaven shines. So we're talking about warmth is different, too hot is different. And in that context, we see that the poet feels that his beloved is lovely and more temperate and very delicate. And often is his gold complexion dimmed. Shakespeare even feels that nature has its own limitations. Of course, nature provides you days and nights, decay and regeneration. This is what we find in nature. If you remember Shelley's poem "Ode to the West Wind," Shelley is speaking about, "Oh, west wind, you are a destroyer and a preserver. You destroy the old leaves and preserve the seeds, and the buried seeds will come back again." This is what we find. Nature is such a great force, which in fact gives us the burial of the dead. Of course, the dead are buried and they come out, they sprout. There is the seeds are buried, and you can see the sprouting of plants. But he does not want anything to be buried or anything to stop here. He wants his beloved's beauty continuous, eternal, and every fair from fair sometimes declines by chance or nature's changing course, untrimmed. So, these lines particularly provide you the apprehensions of the poet, that he does not want to compare his beloved's face to the summer's day, because summer is also short lived and not permanent. But how does he want to make his beloved's beauty permanent? That is beautifully written in the third quatrain. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. How does the poet want to make his beloved's beauty eternal? He has an idea. If nature has a temporary, beauty. If sunshine is temporary, if gold complexion is temporary, if darling buds of May are temporary, I want my beloved's beauty to be shining all the time. But thy eternal summer shall not fade. This is how. Even Keats is also talking about permanence of beauty, permanence of art in his famous poem, uh, The Ode to Grecian Urn. You know, similar, you will come across beauty is truth, truth is beauty, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. These are some of the lines from Keats's poetry. So, an artist wants to make his his beauty permanent through the artistic representation. That's what you find in Shakespeare here. Nor lose possession of fair thou owest, similar to the lovers in Grecian urn who are eternally loving, who are eternally, making love through the painting. So similarly, you can find in this poem, his lover's beauty will never fade because he is catching the beauty in the forms of lines, poetic lines. That's what he says. When in eternal lines, to time thou growest. So the poem is about the transience of beauty and life. As long as both are linked to physical beings, they will pass away. However, if they are captured in poetry, they can live forever. So, poetry is an art which holds the fleeting glimpses, which catches beauty and make it permanent. Summer is occasionally short, too hot and rough. So summer is not the height of beauty for the speaker. He wishes for the beauty that will never fade and wants to immortalize his lover's beauty through the verse. Finally, if you go back to the poem again, the last two lines in Shakespeare's poems are very important. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So long as men can breathe. Here, the couplet of Shakespeare sonnet is always important. It's most of the time it is a message. You know, he did the same thing in sonnet number 116, True Love. He points out at the longevity of his poem. If not the summer, if not the summer's day, his poem lives longer and it has its own beauty. It is continuous. His beloved will live through his poem as long as men can read and breathe. This is how the poem ends here, with a wish of the poet that he is going to give a permanent beauty. He's going to assign, he's going to catch the beauty. It is expressed in many of his sonnets actually. When he's addressing it to his fair youth, he said that the beauty should be continued, if not in physical body, through the lines of his poems. That's why Shakespeare's sonnets are known for wonderful use of similes and metaphors here. In the summer day, darling buds of May, and their fair complexion or gold complexion. The theme of immortalizing beauty is beautifully delineated in this poem. And the poem is also remarkable for its appeal because it is an address. A sonnet is a personal poem. basically a personal poem. And while reading sonnet, we must also understand that there is a rhythm in sonnet. Sonnets are written in iambic pentameter, and the rhyme scheme should be identified by the students. If you go back to the sonnet here, you can understand the rhyme scheme. You can say AB, AB, day, May, temperate, date, shines, declines, dimmed, untrimmed, fade, shade, ovest, growest, and at last, same rhyming, C, T, A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. At the same time, reading style of blank verse should be like this. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Shall is unstressed, I is stressed. Calm is unstressed, pair is stress. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? So we should read iambic pentameter lines, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed for 5 times. This is called iambic pentameter. So to understand Shakespeare's sonnet, we must have fair knowledge of both sound and structure, and we should also know the thematic concerns of Shakespeare's sonnets. So with this, I'm going to conclude my discussion. Thank you so much, and we will come back to you with more videos in the days to come. Thank you very much for patient listening.